What's up? What's going on? Hide and read. It's our 50 before 50 list. Part 2. Part 1 was a lot of fun. Excited to get into this challenge of sorts. It's more of a personal challenge more than anything. I didn't come up with this. Obviously, this is inspired by lots of other booktube creators. I'll list a couple more 50 before 50 lists in the description. In the previous video, I listed some as well, so check that out. This is just a good way, to kind of hold yourself to the flame a bit and make sure you get these done, because as readers, there's going to become a day of reckoning where you will no longer be able to read. And when that day comes, that's it, So it would be a shame not to get all of your personal required reading done. So we'll just jump right into the list. This half is a little less serious, just a little, than the first half. I've given myself space to read plenty of, mood reads, whatever contemporary stuff comes up that I'm interested in. Plus, there's like historical topics, political stuff sometimes that just comes up. There's no manga on the list. There's no romances or anything like that really on the list, in the sense of like contemporary romance. But yeah, all those little things that I do enjoy reading and kind of add spice to my reading life are not on the list. So it's a lot of meat. I only listed 24 books last time. I can read, I just can't count well. But number 25 is Don Quixote. I just assumed that this book was like kind of boring. Apparently it's very exciting. I've read some excerpts as fellow booktubers have been reading it, and also just been watching them and listening to how enthusiastic they are about it. And now I'm pretty excited to read this one. Mike from Bibliophile Bookscape was kind enough to send me a copy in the mail, so Mike still has to read this book too. But yeah, thanks for sending that my way, and I'll be sure to read that sooner than later. Next is Lord of the Rings. Yes, I have not read Lord of the Rings. I haven't read any of it. In third grade, our teacher read us The Hobbit out loud as a class. That was like a solid memory for me. Since then, I did read The Hobbit, but a long time ago. If I read it again, it would be pretty new to me outside of a couple scenes that were very memorable. It's a sin that I haven't read that, but I'm going to read it. Arabian Nights. So this is one that I'm kind of left without any other recourse. It has to be read abridged. I don't really have a way to access the full Arabian Nights. I don't know if anybody does in the English language. I didn't really look up if that's even possible to find unabridged Arabian Nights. It's an enormous text. But if you have any suggestions for a version I should read, I'm curious. Let me know in the comments. Same thing with the next one. It's the Persian Epic of Kings, Shahnameh. This book is awesome. I keep reading it though, and just like, very much appreciating it, but not finishing it. I want to show you a little bit because this book is it's objectively beautiful. It's going to look a little blue because I'm sitting underneath a LED light. My ring light is cooked. But yeah, this edition has really nice kind of like collage illustrations, which I really dig. And like I said, it's an abridgment, but it's certainly not short. It's the Persian Epic of Kings, which is the area now known as Iran. And it's very interesting. I like folktales. I like mythology. It mixes the both. I like history that's in it as well. And I'm looking forward to that one. Shahnameh. All right, moving right along. We have Canterbury Tales. I think we all were forced to read this in high school at some point. Like you had to read some kind of like a chapter or extremely condensed version. If you weren't very scholarly or scholastic like myself, you may have repeated certain classes and had to read it twice, and I didn't like it either time, to be honest. But I think that it's fair to say that's required reading, so it's on the list. Canterbury Tales. Next up, Gulliver's Travels. Jonathan Swift. Don't know much about it other than that, big guy, little people, or is it normal people and a big guy, or a normal guy and little people? I don't know, but we'll find out. Song of the Lark, Willa Cather. I recently read my first Willa Cather book, Death Comes for the Archbishop, and I'm fairly certain that's going to be the read of the year. Maybe I'll read something better, but if I don't, I really don't mind, because the book was that good. I highly suggest, if you haven't read Willa Cather, or especially Death Comes for the Archbishop, check that out. Next up, Hunchback of Notre Dame. Again, very familiar with the story, not familiar with the text. I haven't read any of the text at all. It's highly praised. It's going in required reading. Seems like a no-brainer. Tale of Genji, arguably the first novel. I have a copy, I just don't have access to it right now. Gotta read it, required reading. If you want to read, and have an opinion about novels, you should probably read the first one. Next up, I have a little bit more fun here. C.S. Lewis, The Space Trilogy. I'm a big fan of C.S. Lewis. I have not read The Space Trilogy. I've heard lots of people say that they don't really like it. I don't care, to be honest. I would be very surprised if I don't enjoy this. And even if I don't, it's on the list. It's got to get read. What else do we got here? Barsoom series. So I have a copy from Barnes and Noble. I think just for like 1 year they printed one of those, like how they do these hardcover editions they look very nice on the shelf. They're a little less nice than they look, but it's a good job, especially if you don't have a lot of money, you can't afford more expensive editions of stuff. Those Barnes and Noble books are pretty cool. But yeah, Barsoom series, starting, John Carter of Mars. They have all those nice Frazetta covers on the paperbacks. I've read the first 2 or 3. Haven't gotten through the whole series. Not sure how far I should go with it. But we're going to read it regardless. We'll see. What else do we got? Dune, another series. Like I said, there's a lot of books on here that I kind of cheated and put multiple books in one slot. Dune series is another one. I know it goes on for further than the author was actually writing them. I'm not sure how far I should go into this, but we'll figure it out. I'll probably have a better idea as I go along. And yes, no, I haven't read Dune, another great sin of the channel. Let's see. Hitchhiker's Guide. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Douglas Adams. Was there 5 novels in here and 1 story? I've read the first one many times, but just for some reason never felt compelled to go through the rest of them. I know people don't enjoy the rest of them as much as the first novel, but even if it's as half as good as the first, there's what are we complaining about? They can't all be zingers. Okay, back into the more scholarly realm. We got Discourses of Machiavelli. Niccolo Machiavelli is just like one of my favorite historical figures. I never read the Discourses. I've read The Prince numerous times, lots of different translations. I've read lots of people's opinions on The Prince. I've had The Prince taught to me in the classroom, which is always lackluster, to say the least. Um, it's like when people are teaching the prince, I wonder, do they actually read this and come up with any opinion on their own? Because every time somebody teaches it, it's the same nonsense. And then same thing when people use the word Machiavellian. It's like a very misused word, kind of like how the kids say literally about everything, or they'll say low key, and they're just like words have meaning, please, please. Anyway, Machiavellian Hell, that's next on the list. If I read discourses, I gotta read some kind of biography. Don't know much about this one. I know it got good reviews. It's a pretty good title, gotta say. Yeah, and we'll find out more as we go on. Got some historical fictions here. These next couple are kind of tied together in the same realm. Edward Rutherford, Ruska. I feel like if you're reading historical fiction, you got to read one of these guys' books. He has like London, Sarnum. I think there's one for New York City as well. Quite a few. He's often compared to Mishner. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I don't see how that wouldn't be interesting. And then, just speaking of the man himself, James Mishner, here we have Poland. Excited to get into this one. Again, I don't see how that could not be entertaining. Then we got two books in one slot. Mikhail Sholokhov, The Dawn Flows Home to the Sea. In Quiet Flows the Dawn. And these stories will inevitably have Russia and Poland in them. It's all about Cossacks. And if I understand correctly, not viewed in like the romantic kind of way that the Tolstoy book that I read previous in the year. The name isn't coming to mind, but I'll put it's right here. That book was great. It was awesome. It was a really entertaining read. And also, if you know a little bit about Tolstoy's life, it's semi-autobiographical. So I definitely recommend reading that one, especially if you're like me, you've been avoiding War and Peace or Anna Karenina. You could check out this book and enjoy some Tolstoy and feel like a smarty pants for cheap. Next up, this is one of my favorite authors, one of my first favorite authors growing up, also required reading in school, but I haven't revisited him as an adult, which is kind of strange. Outside of maybe one or two short stories. Edgar Allan Poe, Tales and Poems. I'm just going to read everything by Edgar Allan Poe. He gets one slot. I think that's fair. I think I can be excused for that. I got in this nice Viking Portable, which is the version that I used to read out of when I was a child. I had this one, not this exact book. Mine was pretty beat to crap by the time I was done with it. But years later, I found, pretty much a mint edition in this Viking Portable. So happy to have this. Excited to start reading this again. Yeah, that's required reading, and it's also kind of like a guilty pleasure for me. Next up, same thing. I read this later than Edgar Allan Poe, but still, I think probably past the age of 25, I haven't read much from this author. I still have like a memory of after I graduated high school, I navigated my way into New York City, and I made a visit to the world famous Strand bookstore, and I came home with several books that had like a real lasting impact on me. One of them was a collection by this author, H.P. Lovecraft. And again, we have another one of these Barnes & Noble hardcover editions that look really nice. They read well. They read well enough, but if you have like some really objectively nice books, you'll realize that they're not as nice as they look, and justifiably so because they're cheap, which I'm not a big fan of the store Barnes & Noble, but I think that's really awesome that they put together, a lot of these stories, and they're available to common people at a decent price. And like I said, it's going to look good on your shelf, whether you put it this way or that way. But yeah, I'm going to read all of H.P. Lovecraft. That's on the list. I think that's fair. That's fair. If it's not fair, I don't want to hear about it. I feel like we skipped a bunch of stuff, no? We did. We did. See, I told you I can read, but I can't count. We'll just have to edit some of this out. Or not. Yeah. Romance of King Arthur. This one's illustrated. Lots of different versions of this. This is the one I have. This is the one I'm going to read. Yeah. My Arthurian knowledge is not very deep. I wish I could tell you more. I know the basics. I know the characters involved, but outside of that, I'm woefully uneducated. So I'm excited to read this, Knights, the Holy Grail, damsels in distress, all the stuff I like. And then kind of paired with that, we have Ivanhoe, Sir Walter Scott. I have this nice little, portable edition. And it even has illustrations. Let me see if I could catch one real quick. I like this book a lot. Sometimes you get a book, you're just like holding it. And this is one of those books. I've read through it not through this book a couple of times, but I've picked it up and just opened pages and read it. I don't know why I haven't sat down and just read it cover to cover yet, but Ivanhoe, Sir Walter Scott. That's the one. Okay, so I think we just caught up on the ones that I skipped over for some reason. Then I have, I think this is like the most contemporary book on here, really. Clive Barker, Weave World. If I read Hellbound Heart one more time, it's going to be ridiculous because I haven't read anything else by Clive Barker, and I really enjoyed that book. So instead of reading that over and over and over again, we're going to go through this epic Weave World, which I don't really know too much about. But I trust Clive Barker. It's going on the list. Next book I don't have, and I saw this recently. I started watching this channel. I've forgotten your name, but I'll put your name up here and a video of yours, because I think you did multiple videos for 50 before 50 will be in the description. But she added this. I think it was on your list. Maybe it wasn't. Sigrid Undset. And sorry, I can't remember the author either, but you'll see it here. I had no idea this book existed. I read the summary. It's a giant, like, romance, kind of historical, I think it's Norwegian, book that I was just completely unaware of, and I feel compelled to read it, so it got an honorary spot on the list without me knowing anything about it. And then we have one more. I'm not sure how many books are in this series. I know when I got this first one, this is like a recent translation, that more volumes are coming out. I don't know what they're up to now, but I just have the first one at the moment. Journey to the West, which is Chinese, like, mythology, maybe more folk tales, more the right word of it, but similar to Shahnameh. But Journey to the West has inspired lots of fiction, lots of things that you know about, but maybe you didn't know that they were connected. I think probably the most outstanding one in my mind is Dragon Ball Z. If you read the original Dragon Ball, or you're old enough like me to have watched the cartoon growing up, Dragon Ball, not Dragon Ball Z.
Sure, but it'll take you 50 years to learn the Kamehameha wave.
Aw, 50 years.
You remember Goku is running around the whole time with a tail, and he turns into a monkey under the full moon. A giant monkey, kind of like the Incredible Hulk, just destroying everything. But the original idea of this series was that it's a retelling of the journey to the West. So that doesn't get you at least semi-excited and have you looking into it, I don't know, guys. But yeah, that's our list. It's kind of intimidating. I have to get these read before I turn 50. Lord willing, I make it there. I don't see why not. And, you know, it's not set in stone. After I get a couple of these read, you know, I might privilege myself to remove and replace a few of them. I'm hoping that I can get a whole new set of 50 before I turn 50, basically. But we'll see what happens. And I'll keep you guys updated, obviously. You know, we're not going to wait 14 and a half years until I turn 50 years old to make another one of these videos. So every now and then, as I check some of these off the list, we'll check back in and talk about the 50 before 50 list. But until next time, find somewhere to hide, find something to read. Peace.